एक भी कॉम्प्लीमेंट मत देना इस वीडियो को देखने से पहले. Now, when it comes to compliments, लड़के clueless होते हैं because we are not that creative when it comes to compliments. Compliments like you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, all of those are very forgetful compliments क्योंकि लड़कियों ने उनको इतनी ज़्यादा बार सुना होता है that the moment you start saying that, तुम उनको 99% और लड़कों की तरह लगते हो. That's why this video is very important. Not only that, जिस तरीके से आपका रिलेशनशिप इवॉल्व होता है उस तरीके से आपके कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स भी इवॉल्व होने चाहिए बट नो वन नोज अबाउट दैट. सो इफ यू हैव एवर कॉम्प्लीमेंटेड अ गर्ल एंड यू हैव बीन इग्नोर्ड, मे बी शी डिड नॉट फाइंड इट मेमोरेबल, वॉच दिस वीडियो टिल द वेरी एंड. हेलो ब्रो, माय नेम इज अर्नव एंड आई हैव बीन अ डेटिंग कोच फॉर द पास्ट decade helping men like yourself get into a fulfilling relationship that you deserve. If you're single, consider clicking the subscribe button. Hello bro and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how your compliments are making a lose interest and what you actually need to do instead. तो सबसे पहले हम बात करेंगे mistakes that men make while they're complimenting women. Now this might have happened with you where you're overthinking about what compliment to give and you think, okay, you've come down with the best compliment, but जब तुम वो compliment देते हो, maybe it's too much and the girl sort of loses interest. And in the second part, we're going to talk about the type of compliments that actually work, and these are the only 5 type of compliments that you should actually give a woman if you want her to remember you. And in the third part, we're going to talk about the evolution of compliments through the relationship. Now, the common mistake most men make is they mess up the X and Y axis. Now, once you understand the evolution of compliments through a relationship, whether it's through an initial stage or whether once you have reached intimacy, the compliments that you're going to give in the initial stages are going to be completely different from what you're going to do in the intimacy stage. So we're going to talk about that because this is where most men go wrong. And once you learn about this, none of your compliments are ever going to go wrong. So let's get started. Now, the first thing is mistakes men make while giving compliments. So this might have happened with you where you're talking to a girl, you're giving a compliment and you think that it's perfectly fine. Sometimes you overdo it, and when you overdo it, you put it on a pedestal. Now, once you put it on a pedestal, your value significantly drops and she starts treating you and taking you for granted. The first thing you need to know about compliments is an average compliment leads to an average relationship. If you're just average in your compliments, if you're not creative enough, if you're using the compliments that 99% of the other men are using, what is going to happen is you're not putting your best self forward. And because you're not doing that, you're not a memorable guy. You want to be a memorable guy if you want her to obsess over you. The first thing that you need to know before you compliment any woman is if she's heard it before, you've lost her attention. Common phrases quickly lose emotional impact. It's very important for you to be creative with those compliments. If you just compliment her like, oh, you're looking beautiful, oh, you're looking gorgeous, what is going to happen is it's not going to create that emotional impact because she's heard it 100 times before. It's like having an automatic response question, like asking someone, hey, how are you? Person is going to reply, I'm fine. She's going to say thank you, but she's not going to remember the compliment. So make sure that it's memorable. And I'm going to tell you exactly how in the second part. I'm going to give you a list of compliments that you can use, but it's very important for you to understand the psychology of compliments. So you make sure that every compliment that you give from now on lands perfectly well. Now, the second thing that you need to do is stop complimenting her on her looks. Now, most men do this. 99% of the men do this because they're not creative enough. They're just complimenting the woman based on her looks. So what happens? She's heard it 100 times before and she already knows it. She already knows that she's beautiful. She already knows that she's gorgeous. She already knows that the men trying to get into her pants are going to use these compliments. So what happens? Constant comments on appearance can be seen as shallow or objectifying. So there's no emotional depth to the conversation, and you need to have emotional depth if you wanted to get emotionally invested in the interaction. Now, the third biggest mistake men make while giving compliments to a woman is approval-seeking compliments kill your value. Now, if you're using an approval-seeking compliment where you're seeking her approval when you're complimenting her, it's going to kill your value, and too many compliments also make you look insecure and needy. So make sure that you don't do too many compliments because it also becomes a lot more predictable that this guy is always going to compliment me. One thing you need to know about compliments is you need to have those unpredictable compliments from time to time that build ultimate sexual tension. Now, one thing you need to understand about compliments is never make it predictable. If it is predictable, if you're complimenting her too many times, what is going to happen? It's going to lose its value. If something is easily available, it definitely loses its value. Something that is rare, something that is unpredictable in nature, that has a lot more value than something that is predictable and consistent. And while you're giving those compliments, one thing I'd like you to remember before giving any compliment to a woman from now on is distinctiveness over popularity. What that means is you don't want the woman to like you. That should never be the objective. The objective should be to make it a memorable moment by complimenting her uniquely and authentically. So it's not only about the compliment itself, but it's also about creating that perfect moment where you build that sexual tension so that your compliment actually becomes memorable. So let's discuss the type of compliments that actually work, and I'm going to give you the exact compliments that you can use in your interactions Let me know in the comment section below what exactly happens and how the women respond to that. Now you need to remember that powerful compliments connect emotionally and leave lasting impressions. So compliments are not just there so that the girl feels good about herself and she's enjoying talking to you, but it's also there to leave a lasting impression and create that emotional depth in the conversation. So the next time you want to compliment a woman, try complimenting her on her mind and she'll remember you forever. It's very important because most women get compliments based on their looks, based on how they're dressed up, but not a lot of women get compliments on their mind. Now what that does is it builds intellectual attraction. For that you need to engage with her thoughts and her ideas and her creativity. Now once a woman feels valued, once she feels her creativity is being valued, her ideas are being valued, her thoughts are being valued, she starts seeing you in a different life and it builds intellectual attraction. Now once you start engaging with her thoughts, her ideas and her creativity, it definitely builds intellectual attraction. And a simple compliment you can use is your insights always challenge my thinking. The second thing that you need to observe before complimenting any woman is observe and notice her energy, not just her body. Compliments based on her energy is definitely going to build a lot of comfort and emotional safety. So try doing this. Next time when you meet a woman, rather than complimenting on how she looks, try complimenting on how she makes others feel around her and the environment she creates. An example of this kind of a compliment can be your presence has an extremely calming effect. Now another thing that you would want to do before you compliment any woman is look at what she's doing, what she's passionate about. Now the third right way of complimenting a woman is by complimenting her ambition. Her ambition is attractive, compliment it. You need to compliment her ambition because that also builds a lot of respect and emotional investment. Once a woman feels that, okay, you're not just a guy who's trying to get laid or not just a guy who's trying to impress her with words, but you actually support what she does and you support her vision, she's going to feel a lot more respected and she's going to be ready for a lot more emotional investment in the interaction. Highlight her drive, highlight her goals and her aspirations. An example of this kind of a compliment can be, your passion inspires me to work harder on my own goals. The fourth type of compliment that you should give to a woman should be praising her character because it wins her trust. Now what happens is it builds deep trust and genuine connection once you give these kind of compliments. Recognize her core value, recognize her moral strength and compliment her on that. An example of this kind of a compliment can be, I respect how clear you are in what you want. And the fifth type of compliment that helps you build a lot of emotional chemistry and desire is by telling her how she makes you feel when she's around you. Not just what you see, don't compliment her on what you see, but how she makes you feel when she's around you. Now, while you're giving this compliment, focus on how she affects your emotional state when she's around you. And you can also make these compliments extremely flirty and it's going to help you build a deeper connection. What you can do is you can use a compliment where you just tell her, you make it really hard for me to focus when you're around. Now, these kind of compliments definitely help you build a lot of emotional chemistry and desire. But when you're giving these compliments, you need to have emotional mastery. You cannot give in on your emotions, which means if you're feeling good while giving her the compliments because she's giving you positive reactions, you cannot overdo that stuff. It's very important to have emotional mastery, compliment sincerely, but strategically and specifically to form an emotional bond. Never just compliment her just like that, just because you want to compliment her, just because you want her to feel good. Always do it strategically, specifically to form an emotional deeper bond. Now, I've also written 50 such compliments and they've been field tested by my own clients and by my own self on about 5,000 women and they definitely work. If you want your hands on it, let me know in the comment section below and I'll add a link. But now you know everything about compliments. It's also very important to understand the evolution of compliments through a relationship. Your compliments should land at the right stage. Now, as you can see, I've drawn a figure over here, which is the x-axis and the y-axis. Now, the y-axis is depth and personalization of the compliments, while the x-axis is relationship progression. So initially you start with the initial stage, and the initial stage is basically when you start talking to a woman. This is where you just matched with a girl in an online dating application, or you just went out on the first date, you got a number through cold approach, or maybe you just approached a woman on the road. This is the initial stage. Now, in the initial stage, if you give deeply emotional compliments, or if you're giving extremely personal compliments, because she's going to feel that your interest is a lot more than hers. So at each stage, you need to understand this is based on the psychology that your interest level should be as much as the girl's interest level, and slowly her interest level should increase by the compliments that you're giving her. So in the initial stages of the interaction, maybe the first date, try to keep it playful and engaging. You can use a compliment like, your perspective is fascinating, I'd love to hear more. This is an initial stage. So make it extremely light-hearted. You don't have to have those deep compliments where you're just complimenting her over and over again. Just drop compliments from time to time, but never overdo it. Now, how do you know you're overdoing it? I would suggest like just giving 1 or 2 compliments in the initial first meet rather than giving compliments after compliments after compliments, because that is going to put her on a pedestal. You don't want to do that. Once you put the girl on the pedestal, she has more value than you in the whole interaction, and she knows about that. What's going to happen? Ghosting, last moment flakes. She's not going to treat you with respect. She's not going to respect your time. All of that is going to happen if you overdo the compliments. So make sure you don't. The second stage is where she has an idea about you, who you are, what you stand for, and she's comfortable with you. She's comfortable being with you, and she has some sort of trust on you. Now, once you've reached the comfort stage in any relationship, the compliments should be more personal and more meaningful. What you can do is you can compliment her on her energy. Being around you makes me feel so calm. Now, this kind of a compliment makes the girl feel more special and more deeply connected to you. Now, once you've reached the intimacy stage, which basically means once you have actually been physical with the woman, what happens is things change after that. The compliment you're going to use now are going to be deeply emotional if you actually want to build that emotional bond. You want her to be emotionally invested in the interaction. Also needs to be extremely personal. Now, the compliments that you're going to give in this stage is going to differ from the compliments that you're going to give in the initial stage. Now, most men, the biggest mistake they make while giving compliments is they don't give the compliments in the correct stages. They'll give a deeply emotional compliment in the initial stage. They'll give a personal compliment in the initial stage. Now, once you've reached the intimacy stage, which means that you've been physical with a woman, the compliments are going to be completely different. The compliments are going to be deeply emotional and personal. Now, compliment you can use over here is having you in my life generally makes me feel like I want to be a better man. Now, compliment like that is going to make the woman emotionally invest in the conversation and is going to build emotional depth in the interaction. Now, most men, what they do is they give the wrong compliments at the wrong stages. So a person who's in the initial stage might feel like, oh, I really like this woman. Let me give her a deep emotional compliment. Now, once a woman feels that, she's going to feel that you're extremely needy, extremely desperate, and she's going to back off. Or maybe you're in the comfort stage of an interaction and you're giving deeply emotional compliments. Now, what happens when you give deeply emotional compliments? A woman sees that your interest level is way higher than hers. So who has more value in the interaction? Or maybe you're at the intimacy stage, but you're still giving superficial compliments. Now, what happens? It does not allow you to build that emotional depth in the interaction or for the woman to be emotionally invested. So make sure that wherever you are in the relationship progression, you're using the right compliments according to that. And I want you to remember one thing before you give any compliment to any woman from this point onward is great compliments aren't just words, they're emotional experiences. So make yours unforgettable.